In this video, we'll be going over the engine behind options pricing, which is, of course, implied volatility. Volatility being perhaps the biggest component of options pricing, and we'll explain essentially why options get expensive or, of course, cheap as well, and what to essentially do about that. Now, if you're randomly finding this playlist, it is actually a part of a bigger playlist, an Options 101 playlist. It is 100% free here on YouTube, but if you want the full thing, go over to Teachable. There's a link in the description below exactly for that. It'll come with quizzes, all of this good stuff, and you can immerse yourself a little bit more, and there'll also be a little bit more content there too. Anyways, other than that, I want to give a major shout out to our sponsor ByBit for this series. If you want to trade options in crypto using crypto as collateral, as well as many other things too, ByBit perhaps one of the best places to do that at, and you get several bonuses with that shill link in the description below. And again, full disclosure is an affiliate link, but you don't have to use it, but it does absolutely benefit you. All right, cool. Let's get into the actual content of today, and let's get into our first slide, which is what is implied volatility, or IV. This is the terminology that you need to become very comfortable with when it comes to trading options, because not just volatility, but implied volatility is a major component in how these instruments are priced. So in essence, what is implied volatility? It is the market's expectation of future movement. That does not imply, however, direction. Volatility, whenever you hear that word, always the next thing you should be thinking is direction neutral. It does not imply direction. It does, however, imply the magnitude of expectation for a move. Generally speaking, when implied volatility is very high, things are very volatile. Thus, we can expect big moves, meaning breakouts, meaning parabolic blow-off tops, meaning, catastrophic, bottom falling out, black swan bottoms, these sort of things. And of course, when volatility is very low, we expect things to be relatively stagnant, relatively boring, and generally trading in a sideways range. So options don't price whether something goes up or down. Again, I really want to hammer in that point. They price how much it might move. How much it might move. This gives you an idea of the range in essence. And in fact, if you are reading between the lines here, and again, going back to my former profession as a market maker, authorized trader in equity options, I can tell you the pricing mechanism of options directly accounts for this. And sorry, I just realized that my wrong thingy right here. There we go. You can get a little bit of a better view. I realized that my face is unfortunately still covering up some of the content. Don't worry, I'll read it off for you. It's not that big of a deal. So there we go. All right, cool. So why implied volatility matters? Basically, you can boil it down to this. And if you want to screenshot this slide to save it somewhere or write it down, this would be a good one to do. When implied volatility is higher, expect that there will be higher option premiums. You're going to pay more because the expectation is that price is going to move more. So naturally, those options are going to cost more. And if you're buying premium, you're going to need even bigger outsized moves in order to make money. When implied volatility is lower, you get cheaper options. They cost less, naturally, because the expectation of of that move is relatively low. Thus, you don't need to pay as much of a premium if things, if you want to be an option buyer. Now, of course, implied volatility will naturally expand during uncertainty. And this can be put in different terms as well, like, breakouts, volatile moves, which effectively is propagated by uncertainty. And on the other side, implied volatility will contract during stability, during sideways ranges, during boring times. Basically boring, implied volatility goes down, pricing of auctions go down. When price is very exciting, when it's volatile, when it's breaking out, when it's breaking down, when it's doing something completely new, that is when your implied volatility is generally expanding. So hopefully this is where people start to connect the dots. Moving on, let's give a quick example. I'm sure most people who have traded options in traditional markets have direct experience in witnessing exactly this. And you'll notice that before earnings of a stock, generally implied volatility will be very much elevated to what happens afterwards. Once the earnings report happens, implied volatility generally collapses almost always. And this is why a lot of people who think that they're outsmarting the market by buying, calls if they're bullish on a stock that they think is going to have good earnings, end up either making very little or nothing at all or losing. And it is because you're fighting against volatility. Those options are naturally priced to reflect the potential move, the potential major move that might occur during, of course, in earning report. And everyone's thinking the same thing. So naturally, market makers are going to price those options to reflect that. And, well, what's going to happen after the event? They're going to get fucking crushed. So your premium ends up costing you a lot more than it's worth, almost always in these cases. Now, every once in a while, a stock will just run away after, a great earnings report. Definitely possible, but I'd still make the argument that you are going to make more money, absolutely, if you just take a directional position, if you really do have a strong directional bias. If you're trading volatility, however, this is a different thing. So even if price moves correctly, implied volatility can collapse and crush options buyers. Again, think of the examples, that you've seen in the past. You've probably seen this many times, maybe experienced it yourself. Like you're bullish on Tesla. Tesla's going to have an earnings call tomorrow. Of course, their earnings report was known many months in advance, or at least, around the time of that. So naturally, market makers have been pricing these options to reflect that in advance. You're thinking, oh shit, man, I've been hearing Elon Musk talk really good about this stock. They're going to have all sorts of cool things. What happens? Initially, the earnings report drops, the stock busts to the upside. Then sellers come in, then whatever comes in, price comes back down a little bit, maybe even rallies from there. But because volatility is collapsing, the options price collapses as well. Remember, volatility is a tremendously massive component of the pricing of an option. All right, so where is implied volatility relative to its own history? So this is where I want to bring into focus why I use the indicators that I use, which if you're familiar with my channel, assuming that you're just finding this randomly, I like to use a volatility indicator called the BBWP indicator on TradingView. By the way, it's 100% free. It looks like this, basically tells you when volatility is historically expensive or historically cheap, because it is putting things into a statistical measurement called a percentile, which effectively measures the current volatility versus the look back or the historical look back. So that is how many previous bars you are comparing it to. So you get a better insight into the relative position of volatility right now versus history. So you can set the look back to, be the past year, be the past, week, be the past, month, whatever. That is up to you. But generally, if you're on a daily time frame, you probably want to relate it to about the last year. And by the way, just a quick little insight, in traditional markets, you got about 252 real trading days in the year. So when you're looking at your look back, don't do 365, do 252. That's how many days are trading in the fucking year. So here's just also another quick tool tip, I guess, for you as well. Something that you may want to screenshot. When implied volatility is 10% or lower, 10 percentile or lower, I should say, sorry, not 10%, but 10 percentile, very different things. That is historically cheap. And when implied volatility is 80 percentile or greater, it is historically expensive. Now, some people might argue over the minutia of this. They might say like below 20 percentile is cheap and above 75 percentile is expensive. Look, it is going to be asset dependent, and that is why you do need to look at things, through the lens of history. That's what, the whole technical indicators and testing those are all about. But it'll be somewhere around there. Okay. So these are pretty good, like starting points. If you don't have anywhere else starting, it'll generally be right to begin with. And then, of course, ChatGPT fucking up my slide request for this. It says this ties beautifully into your volatility philosophy. It does. Hopefully yours as well. But yes, and let me just take a moment here to explain percentile if you're not familiar with this statistical definition. So, let me use my BBWP indicator right here. So when something, this is best explained with an example. When something has a read of 93 percentile, for example, which you can see right here on this current bar, top left-hand side, that means that period saw greater volatility than 93% of the historical look back period. Now, on this one, I have a look back period of 100 days. So that would be, it basically has more volatility than 93% of the look back. So there's only 7 days in the past, 100 that actually had more. There you go. And of course, on the other side, let's say your BBWP or, your IV percentile is showing 25 percentile, then that means that the current period is experiencing more volatility than only 25% of the look back, in this case, 100 days. Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Sorry, did I skip something? No, I did not. All right. One moment while I take a sip of this water, and we'll go over the 3 volatility regimes. Okay, so first one is going to be compression. This is effectively when things get boring, when things create a sideways trading range. If I were to show you an example on the chart, it would absolutely be this one right here, this sort of sideways range that Bitcoin was in for about 2 or 3 months. Boring stuff. And that is when volatility collapses, you get compression, and as the name would imply, your option value also gets compressed. The market's quiet, basically. The other volatility regime is expansion, which generally happens during breakouts or breakdowns. And that is when volatility begins to rise. So you can see in this example right here, volatility was generally low during this period. And once it actually broke out, what do you know? It went from extremely low volatility right here to extremely high volatility just a few days later. In fact, 100 percentile on the dot for a few closures. The next one is going to be elevated / panic mode implied volatility. So this is generally higher implied volatility. This happens during periods of fear, uncertainty, doubt. If you're coming out of a black swan or you're around like World War III concerns, these sort of things, that can create elevated implied volatility because the expectation is that something is going to happen. And so naturally option prices, well, they will increase. And you can read this in another way that fear is effectively being priced in. And this also goes to relate to the idea that, most often events do get priced in with options, but people mix this up. They apply it to the spot underlying or futures, which kind of reflects there a little bit, but you're really going to see it in options. So anyways, moving on from there, we have strategy alignment. So here is what you should generally be thinking. If you've been listening to this to this whole playlist by now, you probably already know where I'm going. Hopefully, I mean that'd be good. It shows that the content is sinking in. And generally, when you're in a period of low implied volatility, consider buying options. That would be the only time in which I'd buy options. So, for example, right here, when volatility was very, very low for just a moment. Well, if you're ever going to buy an option, I mean, that's a time to do it. They're cheap. It's been historically cheap because, during this period it was just sideways in general. And what do you know? From there, things did break out. Now, going back into it, when implied volatility is very high, consider selling options. And what would that look like right here? Well, what do you know? When volatility gets very, very high right here, is that a good time to be selling options? Yeah, because price starts to enter into a range again. It's done with a move. And very, very often, almost always, but not always, a breakout move, a trending move will end on extreme volatility. So you can generally kind of get an inkling of when the end of the move is going to be when you see volatility really spike up and stay there for a while. If that happens, you're probably entering into the last phase of that move. If not, it's already done. And then there's, of course, mid, like something in between, around 50 percentile implied volatility. And that is when it's basically neutral, selective. This is, in my opinion, a complete no trade zone. You're just asking for problems. Why would you take trades in the middle when there's no strong bias, instead of just waiting for an area that does have a strong bias like these? So here's the thing, and here's the point that I want to hammer in. Professionals adapt to volatility. They adapt their strategies of volatility. Retail fights it and tries to chase it generally. And by the way, while we are here, let me just see. Okay, actually, no, we will not be able to see that right here. All right, just bad mental note. Anyways, the retail mistake always is buying options after a big move, big news piece drops, big earnings report, big whatever, big event. You're already too late. Okay. You're already too late. The next big one is buying options when implied volatility is already high. I mean, for fuck's sake, if you buy options after a big move, you can only expect it to collapse. If you buy options when they're already at a high, you're just buying expensive options. And buying options before earnings, this is kind of combining all of these together. It's like you're trying for the news event. They're already high because they're priced that way because everyone knows when the earning date is, and volatility will collapse after that point. So you are absolutely going to be fighting that. You are effectively overpaying for volatility, and that reduces your edge. When you're paying for volatility, you are effectively buying premium. So you're either long a call, long a put, or long both. The professional mindset here, however, is to buy volatility when it's cheap, sell volatility when it's expensive. Probability is better than prediction. We are going off of probabilistic statements. And again, I want to hammer this in. Yes, we go over to this in much more detail in the Crown Trading Bible in the options section, but volatility does typically not stay that high for that long. So when you see regimes like this, it's a lot easier to sell options than it is to buy when volatility is low. Because when you buy when volatility is low, volatility can stay lower for a lot longer than volatility can stay high. You can think of volatility in the same way that you think of like a heartbeat or your heart rate. When you do super intense exercise, what happens? Your heart rate goes up. But it is a mathematical certainty over some amount of time, that heart rate must come down. Whereas when you're at a resting heart rate, it can stay there for most of the day. And for some sedentary people, it stays there the whole fucking day, right? But that is the general idea here. Anyways, conclusion, the last slide. Managing implied volatility is integral to success. Price against retail flow. Stay on the right side of probability, and over the long term, you will be more successful than not. Volatility is the opportunity for the prepared investor. And we'll pick up on this in the next slide. Again, if you find this content valuable or you just want to be notified of the next video, consider subscribing. It's the best way to get these videos into your inbox. And again, special shout out to our ByBit sponsor for this. They got the options over here. It's probably one of the best places to do it with a crypto native exchange, meaning that you can actually use your crypto as collateral to put on these trades, which is super, super, super useful for especially non-Americans. Anyways, I'll end things on that note. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.